Tank bottom. Good morning, everybody. JT here, Serenity Farms, prepping with your senseless Zionist war in Iran. So the U.S. is approaching tank bottom at warp speed. You can look up tank bottom, and there is a quite lengthy explanation by fuel and oil experts. But I will give you a quick synopsis for TARDS. That's a general description. Okay, so you know how you have a outdoor pond or a sump pump in your house, and they both have pumps in them. The water spills in. When it reaches a certain level, the pump kicks on. Or with a pond, it runs all the time. At some point, your sump pump water level drops down below the pump. So the pump should turn off and won't activate again until the water reaches a required level. In the pond, the pump will run until the water level drops too low, and then it will keep running. So oil tanks, those huge behemoth 100, 200 foot round 3-story high tanks you see everywhere, those have pumps in them. Massive pumps, obviously. That's how they get the oil out of the tanks. Well, those pumps are very similar to your sump pump and your pond pump. They need a certain amount of oil in the tank to supply a certain level of fuel to pump out, and B, a certain amount of pressure. It pushes out faster. The more pressure, the more oil is on top of the pump. Now, when tanks get dangerously low, which is happening now all across the U.S. and the world for that matter, those pumps have to be manually turned off or they will burn out. So I imagine the pumps are rather expensive, and in the U.S. they are preparing and have already turned off many pumps, which means many oil tanks are well below the level needed to pump. It doesn't mean they're empty, it just means they can't pump anymore. There's not adequate pressure. The pumps overwork, they burn up. A lot of things can go wrong. So, we're supposed to reach that within weeks. And as I've reported before, we run out of fuel July 4th. But we got priorities like the ball, BAAL room, and the circus big top being set up on the White House lawn for a UFC show. And of course, 47, now in his 90th day of the Iran war, and having told us at least 40 times they have a deal and we've won. Okay then. So once again, he manipulated the oil futures, stock prices, and family members and incestuous friends made tens of millions. I just can't believe that the idiots in the stock market keep playing this game with Taco Trump. He keeps lying over and over and over. You can even predict the day that he's going to do it. And yet, nothing. no, there's not a deal like all his lapdogs and fake news are reporting again for the umpteenth time. So back to the tank bottom. Because when there's no oil, okay, Trump brags all the time about the U.S. being a net exporter of oil. And we are. But that doesn't mean anything, because we're also a net importer. So how can that be? That doesn't make any sense. Okay, so part of it isn't Trump's fault. All right? There are several different kinds of crude oil, and they all need to be refined for their specific purpose. There's diesel, there's gas, there's LNG. There's many products, ingredients taken out of raw crude that are used for other things like fertilizer and plastics and multitude. Okay, so we don't have any oil refineries in this country, basically due to the green weenies and rhinos from many years gone by that decided somehow that it was cheaper and looked better environmentally if we shipped all of our oil that we take out of the ground to other countries, let them refine it, and then sell it back to us at a higher price. Okay, that isn't a mistake. That's how the total corrupt system manipulates prices and control over the masses. So while we net export, we are net importers. And that's not working. Trump is sending all our refined stuff to European, Middle Eastern shitholes that he has helped destroy their economies and infrastructure. Meanwhile, we're paying over $4.50 a gallon. Food prices are skyrocketing. The supply infrastructure is collapsing. And he's just spending billions daily like a drunken sailor. Okay, so diesel runs out first. Very shortly, matter of fact. So in case you're not aware, tards, diesel is in every big rig, every dump truck, every emergency vehicle, all the tractors, all the farm equipment, everything. Without diesel, it doesn't matter how much gas we have. Okay? No diesel, farmers can't, A, plant food, and there's also no fertilizer. Then once the food is ready for harvest, they cannot. Then they cannot ship it to production facilities. Those people cannot ship it to stores. You see where this is going? You see how domino effect this is going to be when the diesel's gone? So it also means no ambulances, no fire trucks, no, well, the military's going to get theirs, but no emergency services. You're on your own, in case you didn't know that already. Okay. Now, Trump is also depleting our strategic reserves to be used for emergencies for the U.S. and military if we are in a war, which for 40, 50, 60 days, he stated we were not in a war. But those are at dangerously low levels. And when this Zionist, senseless, Christian, nationalist, Armageddon desiring cabal that we're living under, when that all goes kinetic, Even if it doesn't, the damage has already been done with the fuel and the food. You don't flip a light switch and magically things start going again. It's going to take months, if not a couple years. Because you got to remember, even if there was a deal today, and there won't be, even if there was, approximately 120 ships, tankers a day passed through the Strait of Hormuz, which was wide open with no tariffs and no restrictions before Trump started the war. Now it's a handful. Some of them are paying a tariff, and none of those ships are coming to the U.S. Our last supply ship landed a week or 10 days ago in the port of Long Beach in the U.S. of oil, and that was it. So, even if the war ended today, that level of ships will never come close to that number again. Probably 50 or 60 ships a day if we're lucky. Will any of those come to America? We don't have any allies anymore. Trump alienated them all. Because, make no mistake, our greatest ally is not an ally. So we have none. Despite all his blathering, they don't want anything to do with us. They'll take our money. They're not our allies. So, once again, we are in a world of hurt. I'm just agape at the people who still don't see it, realize, admit the SHTF we are in, because we're not feeling it yet. Yes, gas prices are ridiculously high because of Trump. Okay, that does lead to higher food costs and prices on everything. That's natural. Always gets passed on to the bottom rung on the ladder, the consumers. Now, as the gas dwindles and the oil supply disappears, prices will go higher and higher until eventually there is not going to be any more product on store shelves or in gas stations. I mean, the beautiful people who can afford it, that have gotten rich on all the insider trading lately, they're going to be having their fuel and food and stuff. So, you got to do what you can. And you need to remember, I would bet if you went and looked at 50 products in your home that you use every day, 90% of them have some ingredient that was involved in making them or in them that comes from oil. So when there's no oil, guess what happens to all those? That's correct. They disappear. Just like they are now. Do what you can to get prepared. That's all I can say. I don't see an end to this. And this doesn't even count. I mean, it's all part of the big technocracy that Trump has created. And that the MAGA cons are still swallowing with the excuse. They won't even admit everything he's doing is very nefarious, evil, and unconstitutional. They just say, well, Trump's not going to use it for bad reasons. We just have to make sure the Democrats don't get in power, because they certainly will. Well, Trump just passed the law. You can't speak out against the technocracy in the data centers, or you're going to be put on a domestic terrorist list. There are many. If you think that it's okay because it's us this time is your excuse for everything, you are truly delusional, and the cult you are in, that Kool-Aid you've been drinking, has stolen any cognitive dissonance you may have had. That's all I got. JT, signing out.